Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Monday, October 20th West Fargo City Commission meeting. Before we call the meeting in order, I'd ask that everybody in the room please silence your cell phones with the exception of emergency personnel. Please join the commission in a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Dardis.
Here.
Commissioner Zundell.
Here.
Commissioner Jorgensen.
Here.
Let the record show all commissioners are present. First order of business is to approve the order of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Anderson moves to approve. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Jorgensen seconds. I have a motion and a second to approve the order of the agenda as presented for Monday, October 20th. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next order of business is to approve the minutes of October 6, 2025. They have been distributed and in the packet, Commissioners.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Olson moves to approve the minutes of October 6 as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Zundell seconds. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented for October 6th. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We move on to item F, building permits. Commissioner Jorgensen.
I would like to recuse myself from this vote, please.
Commissioner Jorgensen is recusing himself from the building permits. Please.
Move we approve.
Commissioner Zundell moves to approve the building permits as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Anderson seconds. We have a motion and a second to approve the building permits as distributed. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are now on the consent agenda. We have items A through E.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Jorgensen moves to approve the consent agenda, items A through E. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Olson seconds. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, items A through E, as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are now on the regular agenda. We move on to item number 1, which is public comment. Madam Secretary, is there anyone signed up for public comment this evening?
I do not have anyone today.
Okay. Public comment period is closed. We move into item number 2, is a public hearing. Each item will adjourn out of a regular meeting into a public hearing. Public hearing and first reading of A24-28, an ordinance amendment to Title 4 and Title 10 regarding the establishment of regulations and licensing standards for short-term rentals. We call on Mr. Aaron Nelson, the Director of Planning and Zoning for the City of West Fargo. Good evening, Mr. Nelson, and welcome.
Thank you, and good evening. So item 2 is an ordinance amendment regarding the regulation and licensing of short-term rentals of residential dwellings. This item was most recently presented at the June 16th City Commission meeting, at which the Commission tabled this item and established a short-term rental committee to further explore this topic and to provide a recommendation. Since then, the short-term rental committee has met 4 times and has ultimately recommended a revised version of the ordinance for consideration by the City Commission. In summary, there are 3 primary modifications to the previous version of the ordinance that the committee is recommending. Those modifications include removal of the primary residency requirement, modifications to the occupancy requirements, and then some adjustments to the licensing term, which I'll talk more about in a moment here. Ultimately, the requested action tonight, though, is to hold a public hearing and to consider the first reading of the revised short-term rental ordinance. So with that overview, I just want to bring the Commission's attention to a few things in the Commission packet here tonight. A lot of this material is material you've seen several times before, so I am going to gloss over a lot of it, but certainly let me know if you want me to stop and dive into anything specifically. But at the very end of the meeting, or the packet materials, there is a redlined version of the short-term rental ordinance. And maybe just to take a quick step back and just a broad overview for the general public as well. This purpose of this ordinance overall is to establish a short-term rental licensing requirements as well as short-term rental licensing apparatus for regulation of short-term rentals of residential dwellings. So that the overarching intent has not changed. That's still the intent here, is to create that licensing structure. Really, the thing that I want to focus on today is the modifications that the committee is recommending. So again, that main change is the removal of the primary residency requirement. You may recall that the previous version of the short-term rental ordinance had included a requirement for short-term rentals to be, for somebody to live there most of the year. Somebody lives in that unit as a primary residence for at least half the days in a year. So I won't go through each of these red lines here, but a lot of the strikeouts that you see are just striking out references to that primary residency requirement. So with that removal of the primary residency requirement, dwelling units would be allowed to be rented out kind of year-round as short-term rentals. Short-term rentals, again, would be defined as a rental of 29 days or fewer in a calendar year. So that's really the biggest change that's being modified here. A second change that I want to point out is the change to occupancy. The previous version of the ordinance basically just mimicked the same occupancy requirement as a dwelling unit within our zoning ordinances, which is based on a single family, or else I believe it's four or fewer unrelated persons within any dwelling unit. The proposed change here would be to, instead of rely on the zoning definition of a maximum occupancy for a dwelling unit, would be to instead rely on the building codes, essentially the International Property Maintenance Code, and base occupancy on the square footage of the bedroom spaces within a unit and the overall living space within a dwelling unit. So it does get a little bit more involved, I guess, in terms of every permit application or license application would need to be reviewed for the square footage of the unit, square footage of bedrooms, number of bedrooms, in order to actually calculate the maximum occupancy for each individual unit. So the more bedrooms, the larger bedrooms, the more occupants the dwelling unit can have, is essentially how that would work. The third item I want to note is there was a slight modification to the timeline. So short-term rental licenses are intended to be issued for a period of 1 year. The previous version of the ordinance had the licensing period running January 1 through December 31 of each year, so basically following the calendar year. That has been amended to basically offset 6 months. So the calendar, or the licensing term would start July 1 of each year and then conclude June 30th of the following year. So it'd be a little bit more convenient for folks to renew those licenses in the late spring, early summer than around the holidays. There are a few other tweaks here and there that you can see within the specific red lines. For example, there's a requirement here that in addition to licensees posting the actual license, within the entryway of the dwelling unit, also requiring that the city establish some good neighbor regulations or some good neighbor recommendations. Playing another terminology here. Guidelines. Good neighbor guidelines. Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. That those be posted in an effort to just make sure folks are aware of when they are renting a property in the city of West Fargo, there are certain expectations for how they conduct themselves within our community. So again, that's kind of a broad overview of the recommended changes. A couple of other things I just wanted to quickly note. Throughout this process, like I said, the committee met 4 different times, kind of identified some areas of focus early on during the process. So that's what this attachment here just outlines, the overall approach that the committee took to these revisions, identifying some policy areas that we wanted to dig into further. One of the initial steps that the committee did was to dive in deeper to a number of example ordinances from the region, so primarily the tri-state area, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota for the most part, just getting a sense of how those communities operate short-term rentals. There is a broad spectrum across the board in terms of how communities choose to approach the topic of short-term rentals. But I think the sentiment of the committee was, we want to be somewhere in the happy medium, if you will, making sure that we're regulating what what the concerns are, but not over-regulating. Maybe just to broadly summarize. Additionally, the committee did put out a public survey that was available on the city's website for a number of weeks. The summary of the survey results is also included in your packet for anybody interested in diving in a little deeper to some of the survey responses that the committee received. So with that overview, again, happy to dive in deeper or to answer any specific questions the commission might have. Otherwise, like I said, the committee is recommending a revised version of the ordinance, and so we do have it on for first reading, consideration of first reading tonight, as well as an additional public hearing, since there were significant enough modifications to warrant an additional public hearing. So I'll leave it at that, unless you have any questions for me.
Questions for Mr. Nelson, commissioners? Comments? Please, Commissioner Jorgensen.
I'd like to commend Mr. Nelson and his team for what they did, Chief Nielsen for support from his staff, and also from the fire department staff to come up with this final agreement. Thank you.
Anyone else? With that, we're going to close the regular agenda. We now move into a public hearing on A24-28, ordinance amendment to Title IV and Title X. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this document? Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of A24-28, the ordinance amendment to Title IV and Title X regarding the establishment of regulations and licensing standards for short-term rental? Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor? Is there anyone that would like to speak against A24-28 ordinance amendment Title IV and Title X regarding the establishment of regulations and licensing standards? Is there anyone that would like to speak against? Is there anyone that would like to speak against? With that, the public hearing is closed. We are now back in the regular agenda. Commissioners, this is an actionable item.
I motion to approve the first reading of A24-28, ordinance amendment to Title IV and Title X regarding the establishment of regulations and licensing standards for short-term rentals.
Thank you, Commissioner Jorgensen. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Anderson. We have a motion and a second to approve the first reading of A24-28 ordinance amendment regarding regulations and licensing standards for short-term rental. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. It's a 4-1 vote. We move on to item number 3. Item number 3 is a second reading of A25-21, a zoning ordinance amendment to Title IV regarding the landscaping regulations. We call again on Mr. Aaron Nelson, Director of Planning and Zoning. Good evening. Welcome back.
Thank you. So item 3 is a request for zoning ordinance amendments to Title IV regarding landscaping standards. The specific requested action today is to approve the second reading of this ordinance. So this item was presented in a little more detail here last meeting, so I'll spare you the details as well. High-level summary here, though, is we're looking to relax some of the required landscaping requirements for industrial properties, specifically within overlay zoning districts, such as the interstate overlay. In addition, we have a few other modifications to the landscaping ordinance to help clarify and simplify some of the requirements to make it a little more user-friendly, including the addition of things like graphics to help folks understand some of the requirements here. So happy to answer any specific questions. Otherwise, recommended action tonight is to approve the second reading.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Nelson?
Move we approve second reading.
Commissioner Olson moves to approve the second reading of A25-21. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Zundell seconds. We have a motion and a second to approve the second reading of A25-21, amendment to Title IV regarding landscaping. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are now on to item number 4, 2026 to 2030 Transit Development Plan Presentation. Mr. Adam Altenberg and Alden Jung of MetroCog. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, Commission President and Commissioners. Thank you for your time here tonight. Again, my name is Adam Altenberg, and with me is Aidan Young, and we're here on behalf of MetroCog to present the 2026-2030 Transit Development Plan. This is a plan that we update every 5 years with the focus of how we are able to improve public transit services in the Fargo-Moorhead metropolitan area. So jumping right into things, this plan was broken into 5 components. The first is existing conditions. It's looking at all the data that was available, including route analyses, system barriers, and rider perspectives. Second, future system needs identification, looking down the road and identifying potential service solutions for MatBus. Service recommendations. Initially, we looked at several different service scenarios and looking at ways that we can improve our fixed route services in the area. Community feedback, what we heard through the entire process, and this included online story map tools, surveys, and several open houses that we had throughout the planning process, including one survey that was specifically tailored to West Fargo residents. And then finally, the coordinated transportation plan to enhance the effectiveness of our regional transportation service providers, in addition to MatBus. So the TDP purpose, basically it's building off the goals, objectives, and system recommendations that were established in the past transit development plan developed in 2021. Also to identify transit service needs, prioritize improvements, and determine resources required for implementing service adjustments. And then also, again, updating that coordinated human services transportation plan. Planning process, so this was broken into a couple different sections. We kicked off this project in the summer of 2024. For the first couple of months, we looked at those existing conditions, so looking at data collection, stakeholder engagement, route performance, and also looking at other identifying issues and opportunities. From there, beginning around December 2024 and going into 2025, looking at those future system needs. Again, we looked at a couple of different service scenarios, and we did bring those out to the public to get feedback on those. Also looked at future improvement priorities, and then again, that community and stakeholder engagement component. And then finally, final plan development. This happened roughly between the spring and the summer of this year. So again, looking at some of those future recommendations, the coordinated transportation plan, and then we're looking at plan approvals here. Again, we're going to the jurisdictions here this month and next month, and then with looking for a final approval from MetroCog in December. Engagement, this can be broken into 3 different sections here. So we had a study review committee. They were kind of the overarching review component for this plan. We had four meetings throughout this process, and with those 4 meetings, they usually tied into public input opportunities. So the first of those was issues and opportunities back in October 2024, service alternatives in March 2025, again looking at those 2 different service scenarios, and then the draft plan review. This was a virtual meeting that we had in late August 2025. In addition, we did hold focus groups in late January, and this included specifically tailored meetings with local jurisdictions, human services, community-based organizations, businesses, emergency response, and educational institutions. So what we heard, just a couple kind of high-level notes to bring to your attention here. One thing that I think is great to note here is that you notice how well does existing MatBus service work for you. 2/3 of respondents said that the service works well. And that really shaped the direction of the plan here itself. But we also asked a question, how do you transfer to complete your trip? And this was a question that was really important because we found that of the respondents, nearly 3/4 of respondents say that they usually take two or more buses to get to their destination. So that did drive some of the recommendations that we'll touch on later on. Preferred service plan here. This was developed, and it kind of took everything that we learned throughout the planning process, and it was kind of broken into, I guess, 6 buckets or guiding principles, you can call them. So first is just simple and direct, bi-directional, fewer transfers, maintaining access, scalable, and that's important, and we'll talk about that a little later too. If there's funding issues that come about in the future, making sure that MATBus is nimble enough that they can scale back if the funding situation changes, but then scale forward if there are additional funds available for future needs. And then finally, reliable. So the preferred service plan here, I'll kind of just briefly highlight some of the changes here that we noted. So on the Minnesota side, there's 4 routes that we looked at, Route 3, 4, 6, and 9. Just some minor changes to routes in Moorhead and Dilworth. We also looked at Route 13, which services North Fargo and the NDSU campus area. But we also looked at routes 18, 20, and 24 that service Fargo and West Fargo, and also a new route, Route 21. Again, I'll touch on these in more detail a little bit later, but just some of the changes to note here. So with regard to those impacts, the top number that's important to highlight is that we're not really looking to remove service from anyone who's using MATBus services. You can see only 0.4% of users would be disrupted by some of these proposed changes. But with that, we're looking at a 2% increase in the number of residents that are served with some of these route adjustments, as well as 5% increase in the number of job centers that are served. So just a couple of highlights to note there with the regional impacts. Also, again, looking at interlining, key change in this plan is looking at ways so that people are being able to stay on a route consistently, so they don't have to transfer 1 or 2 different times to get to specific locations and destinations. That was important as part of this plan. And then finally, looking at more bi-directional routes, make sure that we're just not doing loops, but that we're actually servicing specific areas by getting people to where they need to go. So with regard to cities of Fargo and West Fargo, a couple highlights to note here as part of the transit development plan. Again, Route 18, this was modified to run bi-directionally from the ground transportation center to West Acres, and that is being interlined with Route 20. So again, a person would not have to get off a bus and then get onto another bus. That would just be one circuit that would go serve both routes there. Route 20, that's the eastern segment, that will be covered by a new Route 18. Route 24, this is being revised to run bi-directionally from West Acres to South Walmart, and this was also replacing portions of existing Route 18. And then finally, Route 21, this is a new bi-directional route that would cover portions of Route 24, but would actually service the West Fargo City Hall and then go out to the Lights District on 32nd Avenue. So final plan feedback. So throughout August and September, we did solicit feedback on the final plan, but I'll note that we are still receiving comments. In fact, we did receive a number of comments from the MATBus Coordination Committee last week. So I would encourage you, if you have any comments or if you hear from anybody in the community that has additional feedback, we're still open to receiving those comments and making sure that they're integrated before the plan approval here in December. And one of the things that is important to note as part of the TDP is where MapBus is with regard to funding in the community. These issues really came up, I guess, towards the middle of our planning process here. So there are some elements in the final plan where we try to evaluate, for instance, underperforming routes and talk about some of the budgetary constraints, but also allowing this plan and making sure this plan is still flexible without affecting some of those guiding principles that we talked about earlier. And lastly, I'll touch upon is the coordinated plan. This is an extremely important tool that includes inventory of available transportation services, not just MapBus, and also how those entities work together. And with that, there's a couple of goals that we developed as part of the coordinated plan, recommendations how that can be implemented locally. Lastly, approval timeline here. So this did go forth to our MapBus Coordination Committee last week, and it was recommended to go to the jurisdictions that MapBus serves, Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo, and Dilworth. So again, we're looking to have those meetings here this month and next month, and then final approval from MetroCog in December. So that concludes my presentation. Be happy to take any questions at this time.
Commissioner Jorgensen.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Altenberg, but I have several questions. I believe it was asked the last time you guys were in front of us to identify the stops on the routes. Where's the bus gonna stop? It's not marked on the route. So how many stops do we get on like Route 20 or Route 21?
That is a good question here. I know off the top of my head, we did note the number of stops. I think it's something like 675 total throughout the system.
I'm just concerned about the ones in West Fargo.
Sure.
My next question is,
I'll follow up with you on that, sure.
okay, no, I appreciate it.
Yep.
My next question is dropping north to Second Avenue. Is it just to pick up that 55 and older development that's on First Avenue? Because Second Avenue is a very narrow road, gets narrower during the winter, and to get a bus down there is gonna be extremely difficult.
That's a good comment. Again, I'll touch base with our consultant team on that and get back to you.
Now, the biggest one,
Yeah.
one of the biggest ones I have concerns with, why are we not stopping at any of our grocery stores in our town? You're definitely going way out of your way to go to Walmart on 52nd, but you're driving by 3 grocery stores in West Fargo.
I believe the new route will stop at, forgive me, the grocery store on 32nd Avenue. Is that Cashwise?
But they gotta switch buses to get there.
It would be interlined.
Okay?
So, but you're correct. I know, like the Hornbachers on
Hornbachers is all forward, having to stop at their place.
Yeah.
I mean, same with Cashwise, I mean, they're
Yeah.
same company. Family Fare, I mean, you're taking our business right to Fargo.
So if that, you're talking on 13th Avenue there.
Yep, 13th and where Hornbachers is located, right by the interstate.
Yeah. I mean, that is an important question,
So if this
important
is,
comment, yeah.
so the next is this, the 26 to 30 plan. In those 4 to 5 years, where are we getting our covered bus stops?
That would probably be a question better tailored for MatBus. That's something I don't have an answer for you, unfortunately. But I know that has been a discussion topic with the commission in the past.
It just seems there's no progress on it. And,
I wish I had a better answer for you
no,
on
I
that,
understand.
but
I
yeah,
mean, this is,
yeah.
you came in with
Yes.
your presentation and we get to critique it otherwise, so
Yeah.
appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And how much do we subsidize the bus routes as far as out of our city budget?
500 and some thousand.
Well, yeah, correct.
I don't know the exact number, but it's 500,000.
Sure. Well, thank you for your time. I look forward to your answers.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yeah, so Commissioner Jorgensen actually raised up my question. The question I had was on Second Avenue, between Third Street and Cheyenne. It gets very narrow, especially with the bulb outs and with the snow. So, while it might be the most efficient route, I don't know that it would be the best route. So that's something you guys might want to take a peek at. Yeah. That's all I got. Thanks.
If I could add to that, Fourth and Cheyenne would be a great stop. The lights, the VF, the funeral home there.
Sure. Yeah.
Commissioner Sundell.
Can you go to the slide where it talks about like the approval or people think it's working well or not well? Oh, there it was. So I guess my question is, you say that you think 2/3 of the people think it's working well, but I feel like if the second question is the existing service sometimes works well, that tells me that I don't know that that would be categorized as working well. So is there like any type of explanation that people got when they filled this out? Because I would say the existing service sometimes works well would be a category that I would choose if I was like, I don't really think this overall works very well. So I just was curious if they had like instructions on what those things meant when they took the survey.
To my knowledge, no, that it didn't go into any additional specifics on that question in particular.
And then, do you know how many people took this survey?
I don't have the number off the top of my head. It is referenced as part of one of the appendices.
Do you know if this included people that maybe don't regularly ride the MAP bus because the service zone just doesn't include them at all?
We did try to get a broad sample. I know the survey was, they had paper copies at MatBus, but I believe the jurisdictions also shared it on Facebook, so to catch both people that ride and didn't ride.
I think the concern that I have is catching the people that, again, don't have access to some of the services, may potentially rely on public transportation, who are not, I mean, I know we have people who use our library because they don't have internet service and things like that. So I'm worried about the people that don't have access to this right now. And I'm again concerned that some of these areas and some of these changes that we're making make it even worse for the people who might want to have access for some of this. And then my other question would be, do you have any distinguishing statistics as far as West Fargo ridership, how they feel like the service is working? Like if you were to compare the different service zones or service areas, do any of these statistics include specifically West Fargo ridership?
In the metadata, it would have asked where the respondents lived. I don't know if that is included. For example, broken out by jurisdiction, who was saying service works well or is sometimes works well. I don't know if we had that specificity in the appendix, but we do have the raw data for that.
Yeah, because my main concern would be that people in West Fargo might probably be more heavy-handed on I'm not sure it fully works well. But I too share the concerns that it feels like we have some strong grocery stores here, again, on the kind of the north-south route, having to kind of change over. I agree with Commissioner Jorgensen's statement about driving people basically out of West Fargo for things. And then my other concern, and I had raised this last time too, is just people's ability to access the VA and the different hospitals. Like I feel like when you map out how long it would take someone in West Fargo to get to a primary care provider, it's very long.
Sure.
And may not even be workable to do it, go be seen by your physician and make it back to your residence in one day.
I have a couple points I'd like to make. If you take a look at the slides that's up there right now, if you look at the bottom two questions that were asked, that's 33%. That supersedes that it's working well. So if you take a look at 33% and 39%, sometimes it works well or it's not working well at all, you're not getting a very good report card. To Commissioner Jorgensen's point, I have advocated for shelters for 4 years, and I realize that we're dealing with two entities here. I will openly advocate that we do not contribute next year unless the answers that Mr. Jorgensen brought up with regard to our grocery stores and in providing health care, easier trips, and shelters, I will advocate that we do not participate. You have my word on that. Commissioner?
I was just going to make a comment. If, Adam, if you could put up a map with the entire metro area on there. There you go. That one's good enough. You can see, however, on the Moorhead side of the river, the state has funded them far greater than North Dakota has funded. That's why Moorhead gets a lot better service than what we do. To help out on our side of the river, we would need Bismarck to ante up some funds to help out, get better service on our side of the river. That's why you see such a big difference there, whereas the state is helping out the Moorhead residents in a far greater detail than North Dakota. Up near NDSU, yes, there's a lot more routes up there, but you get to the south and west of Main Avenue, there's hardly any bus service that goes as close in density-wise as over on the Moorhead side. So that was my only comment.
The North Dakota legislature did contribute more this year than they had in the past.
But they need to do more.
Oh, yes. Fargo is still underwriting about $3.5 to $4.5 million, I believe, of what the cost of this is versus, what their ridership pays for and the like. So I understand that this has put a lot of pressure on the city of Fargo with regard to the finances. And again, I am aware that they are subsidizing at least $3.5 million worth of it. This gentleman is looking for a resolution of support. Commissioners, that's the ask this evening.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Commissioner Olson moves to issue a support for the 2026 through 2030 plan presented by Metro Transit. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Anderson seconds. We have a motion and a second to approve the 2026-2030 Transit Development Plan presentation for MetroCog as a memorandum of support. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Zundel.
What happens if we don't pass this? What are the ramifications?
Mr. Altenberg?
So, resolutions of support, they are part of our public participation plan for MetroCog. So it is something that we do need prior to MetroCog adopting this plan again in December. A thought is to, if you're not comfortable, we can come back and present additional information or additional changes between now and December meeting.
Well, it certainly would be a good idea to come back and answer some of the questions that the commissioners have had. Commissioner Olson.
I would think it would be better suited to have Fargo Transit come here and do the presentation rather than have Adam, who represents MetroCog, who's just doing the plan. Adam doesn't have any control over the stops and all that kinds of stuff. He needed Chief Nielsen's bulletproof vest there tonight with our tough questions. But if you don't want us to go ahead and approve the plan, it is just a plan. We can still have time to work with the route changes and all that. After sitting on the Transit Coordinating Committee until it dissolved here for about 7+ years, you make one change, it upsets the whole fruit basket of everything being coordinated. So it isn't as simple as one thinks, oh, we're just going to move this here, and then it disrupts everything because everything's on a time thing. It's just like airlines. You get one little bump, you get a thunderstorm in Chicago, and it throws off everything. So it isn't something that can just be done overnight, a quick change. I think Adam has heard, I don't know what Adam can do to take back to the transit. I know Dustin sits on the board now, so he could relay all of our concerns.
I think even if the simple change is that it's not on Second Avenue West, because I think that feels
East.
probably, or is it Second Avenue East?
East.
Second Avenue,
East.
I think it's labeled Second Avenue West on the thing.
Oh, it's west for like a block,
west.
but east for.
Whatever,
Third Street.
whatever street it is, even if that's the one change, I guess my concern is like, I don't feel like, I think we asked a bunch of questions the last time I was here, I think we gave a bunch of feedback, I don't really feel like any of the feedback anybody did anything with, and it feels like, I think there are some core concerns which have been expressed over time that I don't feel like there's been any type of resolution for. So that's my hang up is I feel like once we sign this and say, yep, we support this, there's definitely probably not gonna be any changes, or the leverage for any change at this point, seems to be pretty much not present once we sign this.
Again, we have a motion on the floor to support the development plan. Commissioner Jorgensen.
I agree, Adam, we probably threw you to the fire tonight. Partially apologize for that. I mean,
No.
it just, but here forward, I mean, if you're gonna represent somebody, they should be with you to have the answers, that we need. I guess I'll give my support, but I would like to see somebody here before the end of the year that can stand where you're standing in front of.
Again, the motion is for resolution of support for the 2026, 2030 transit plan. Is there any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes on a 3-2 vote. We move on to item number 5 is the Lexipol policy presentation. Sarah Goshevic, Director of Human Resources.
Good evening, Commissioner President and Commissioners. Today, much like our last meeting on October 6th, I bring forth another set of policies for you to review and approve. Tonight's grouping includes 8 different policies. One of those is a repeat policy from October 6th. We made a little bit of adjustments to some of the definitions in Policy 100 per Commissioner Zundel's request, and so that one's just being brought forth with those edits, very small edits as they are. The other policies being brought forth, if we can pull them up here. I'd like to do them in order, but I'm not that good to remember what order I put them on your agenda packet. So we have Policy 200, which is our emergency management plan developed in collaboration with our emergency manager over at our fire department. We have our Policy 301, our encumbered funds carryover. 404, which is our business gift and gratuities. 405, subpoenas and court appearances. 406, which is speech and expressions and social networking, which kind of goes towards that policy from our last meeting where you were asking about how the social media and those, this would be that companion policy for that. We have 418, which is the Family Medical Leave Act, and then policy 422, which is the military leave. Were sent these late or early last week, so I stand for any questions you have on these policies. Otherwise, we are seeking just to have them approved so that we can enter them officially into Lexipol.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson.
If you can go to 405 and 405.3.2, right, nope, go right there. After the blue wording, you have a red line through the, and then just a black city.
So when we
The
print.
rest of it's redlined.
Yes, that is supposed to be redlined. When I print the PDF out of our Lexipol program, terms like city administrator, things like that are pre-populated through an algorithm behind there, and it never crosses them out.
Okay,
So if they're in the sentence with the red line, likely we tried to get rid of that too.
It jumped out, and it's like, okay. do
We won't leave the word city just sitting there.
Word city, yeah, all right. Okay. All right, that was my one question.
Anyone else? Questions on these?
Move we approve.
Commissioner Zundel moves to approve these items. Was there 8? Correct?
8.
8 items this evening on the, on policy.
Second.
Is there a second? Commissioner Wilson seconds. I have a motion and a second to approve the Lexipol policy presentation for these 8 items. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6 is the transfer station scale replacement. This discussion is brought forward by Mr. Matt Anvick, Senior Director of Public Works. Good evening, Mr. Anvick, and welcome.
Good evening, Commissioner President and Commissioners. For tonight, I'd like to bring the transfer scale or transfer station scale replacement forward. The scale out there is about 27 years old. We've been kind of limping that along for the last few years, trying to just get the maximum life out of it. Every year we go in for our inspection. The inspector always kind of looks at it and says, yeah, you're going to need some major repairs or to replace it pretty soon. That kind of came this last year. He was like, yeah, you're not going to get any more, inspections passed. This scale, you're going to need to do some, basically full replacement with how it is. So with that information, we kind of just included the scale replacement within our project 9061. That's a Public Works expansion project with that phase 2. And so the estimated costs in our budget estimates, as part of that phase 2, we had $150,000 in there. And then after phase 2 was approved, we did put it out in RFP, and we got 2 bids that came back. And that's one thing that the scale is a kind of a critical piece of equipment out at the transfer station. We use that to weigh in the incoming loads for the contractors and businesses. The majority of that is going out to our inert landfill or for waste management and the recycling, which we can use that to bill the businesses and contractors from. We average about 200 to 300 away tickets per month. So, depending on the month, but the summertime or summer months is a lot kind of a higher usage for those scales. Like the funding for this will, like I said, coming from Project 9061, and that's just a combination of the SRF loans and some city funds as well. If this is approved, we were trying to get it in this fall. It just won't work for now, but if this is approved, it'll be in the spring of '26, and then it'll be about 2 to 3 weeks for the construction to take place. I just kind of wanted to, bring this out and get it approved on its own through the project. Just more transparency is, it wasn't specifically called out in the memos in the phase 2. It was in our internal budget, so we had that in there. It was just the cost was brought forward with the total of that project. And then also felt it was good to bring this forward just for the fact that it's not housed within Public Works building itself or the sanitation building. It was kind of a standalone piece of equipment, unlike, we're going to have to buy some overhead cranes or equipment for our Public Works facility, which that'll be, part of that project, but this was kind of a standalone and a separate contract, so we felt that the need to get this approved on its own in front of you tonight. So I'll ask for approval and award the bid to Prairie Scales in the amount of $135,808, and I'll stand for any questions.
Questions for Mr. Anvick? Mr. Jorgensen?
I just see the original cost, whatever is $129,983. Which one of the additional recommended options are included to get it to that 135?
Oh, didn't have that one on there. I think it was the end. I can see that right. I think it was on the end, one of the end wall replacements, I think. Yeah, I think it's replacement, not patching for the long-term fix on the end walls, I think was what was the add-on that we're doing with that. As well, there's some settling on the sidewalk. I think we can see in one of the pictures that we're going to look at doing that with our crews, that we could maybe try and foam jack that and raise that up as well. So that was about the only thing we kind of picked out was that end wall fix with that.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Commissioner Olson?
Matt, you said that this is like 27 years old, and it's been out in the elements the whole time. If it were enclosed, would it last longer?
Yeah, if we did have it enclosed, it would be, I'm sure you can get a few more years out of it that way, as long as it's routine maintenance. Being outside, like this, I'm sure we get salt on there. I think there are some pictures accompanying this, so you can see just how corroded, those parts underneath are. But yeah, if we had it enclosed, that would be a little bit, we get some more longevity out of it that way.
I know you're not asking for that tonight, but I was just thinking a way to prevent this from, and I don't know how long scales last that are indoors anyway, everything wears out if it's mechanical at some point, so.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that it could be, if we keep that transfer station going, something to consider down the road might be to enclose that if possible. But I know it's a tight spot there with people coming and going, and I've been there a number of times, so it's a tight spot to enclose it, but.
And that is one of the.
What type of straight wall would you need to cover that?
We would probably just get by with some walls. I think we would probably need to go at least 14 feet high, though. Probably 16 would be better. It would just be, I guess you'd get really just two walls or a wall, a roof, and then the two ends would be open. I would just have to make sure that we had it plenty wide and high that we could get any of those loads. And sometimes they have random weird things sitting, up over the top. But I wouldn't take a whole lot to do, but that was part of the reason why we've kind of pushed it down the road a little bit to see what we want to do with the transfer station. We had some plans that possibly moving it with the expansion, and we were just kind of trying to make it work until we kind of figured out a plan with that. So that was, we pushed it as far as we could. But now we just have to either put a lot of money into repairs or just purchase a new one, which was actually more cost beneficial.
Commissioner Olson?
Quick follow-up.
Follow-up.
Yep. If you would move the transfer station to other places, could you move the scale with you?
And definitely something we could look at, that would be a possibility of that. Another thing we brought up too was another, possibly if the scale company wanted to sell that to, they had another client that would want a similar scale that would fit there, that would be something we could repurpose to.
Okay.
That we definitely look into.
Commissioner Zundel?
That was my question.
Anything else additional from Mr. Hanby?
Move we approve.
Commissioner Olson moves to approve the transfer station scale replacement for $135,808 as presented. Sir, a second.
Second.
Mr. Zundel seconds. We have a motion and a second to approve the $135,808 expenditure for a scale replacement. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thanks.
Item number 7 is an Improvement District 2265, 9th Street and 7th Avenue Northeast reconstruction. We're going to call on Mr. Dan Hansen, Senior Director of Community and Development. Purpose of this discussion is to conduct the determination of protest and sufficiency and approve an associated resolution. Mr. Hansen.
Thank you, Commissioner President Dardis and Commissioners. As stated, at the September 8th Commission meeting, we passed a resolution of necessity when we created the Improvement District, which would be the funding mechanism that we would use to special assess the improvements for the reconstruction of 9th Street Northeast and 7th Avenue Northeast. Again, 9th Street Northeast is intended to be reconstructed from Main to 12th Avenue, and 7th Street from 9th Street east to our city boundary. And with that project, we do have a lot of funding that we've been able to obtain through grants for it, but there is a remainder that would be a local share, and that local share is intended to be assessed at a 70% assessment rate as per the guidance of the 2024 CIP. And so we passed that resolution of necessity, which was after we created the district. We sent out letters that are included in the packet, and as of right now, we have not received any written protests from any of the letters that we had, property owners of the letters that we had sent out. So with that, lastly, kind of just ancillary to what we're talking about tonight, but before we end this item, I did add a couple different renderings that were provided by Houston Engineering of what the corridor is intended to look like with, you can see Main here, and you can see that there's the bridge, which will be bid and constructed in the same year, but under a different project, all the way north to the improvements of the roundabout up at 12th Avenue as well. And then there's another rendering that I've shared in the past of the intersection of 7th Avenue and 9th Street, just to give you a little bit of a glimpse of what it might eventually plan to look like. And you can see there is a frontage road to protect the access control for the corridor. There will be a northbound frontage road running along those businesses, so that way we don't have multiple driveways accessing a major corridor through town. So those are just provided for informational purposes, but the item in front of you tonight is to pass the resolution declaring that we did not receive sufficient protest with the creation of the improvement district. And with that, I would answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Hanson?
A motion to approve.
Commissioner Georgeson moves to approve the Improvement District 2265, 9th Street and 7th Avenue Northeast reconstruction, and approve the associated resolution that there's not sufficient protest. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Zundell seconds. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Hanson.
Thank you.
Item number 8 is an improvement district number 6059, sidewalk improvements, 2024 walks. Mr. Jerry Wallace, city engineer, is leading this discussion and is to approve the final assessment list. Good evening, Mr. Wallace, and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Commission President and Commissioners. I'm here before you tonight for Improvement District 6059, which is our sidewalk improvement district that we typically bring forward every other year. This is to address areas of town where, the build-out, so to speak, is typically largely complete, and we still have existing sidewalk gaps present in the sidewalk network. We come in and issue a notice of order to construct on the front end of the project, and essentially give the property owners time to construct the improvements themselves if they so choose to. And if not, we come forward with the project and install the sidewalk, and then turn around and assess 100% of the costs, to the benefiting properties. This is 100% in conformance with our city ordinance under Chapter 2. Again, the total project cost as shown in the financial summary was $308,059.01. That includes soft costs. The actual construction came in around $267,000 and change. Soft costs ran about 15%, so nothing to be alarmed with there. With all that said, in your packet is all the benefiting properties and the resolution of assessment. And with that, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Commissioners, questions?
Move we approve.
Commissioner Zendel moves to approve the District Number 6059 sidewalk improvements for 2024 walks as presented by Mr. Wallace for the total amount of $308,059. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Anderson seconds. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 9 is the first reading of ordinance 1264. That's a parking ramp ordinance. We're going to call on Katie Schmidt, city attorney for the city of West Fargo. Ms. Schmidt.
Thank you, Commission President and Commissioners. This is the first reading of an ordinance to regulate the use of city-owned parking ramps. The police department has encountered issues with individuals using parking ramps for things other than parking, and these issues have presented safety concerns for the PD. Mayor Dardis asked that we work together to draft an ordinance to address these issues. This ordinance is designed to limit the use of city-owned parking ramps to uses specifically related to parking. Again, this is a first reading, and I am available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Schmidt. Any commissioners, any questions?
Move we approve first reading.
Commissioner Olson moves to approve first reading of ordinance 1264. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Jorgensen seconds. We have a motion and a second to approve the first reading of ordinance 1264, parking ramp ordinance. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We now are on item number 10. These are resolutions authorizing the issuance and sale of bonds for public works expansion. Again, we call on Ms. Schmidt, City Attorney for the City of West Fargo. We have a wastewater treatment revenue bond and a water treatment revenue bond. Ms. Schmidt.
Thank you, Commission President and Commissioners. These are resolutions authorizing the sale of bonds to the North Dakota PFA for $8.5 million and $2.7 million for the Public Works Facility. The interest rates on these bonds is 1.5% with a 0.5% administrative fee with 30-year maturities. I am available for any questions you may have about them.
Questions for Ms. Schmidt?
Do you need separate motions for each?
Yes, please.
Zundell.
I move we approve the wastewater treatment revenue bond, Series 2025C.
I have a motion to approve the wastewater treatment revenue bond, Series 2025C. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Olson seconds. We have a motion and a second. Again, to approve the wastewater treatment revenue bond, Series 2025C. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Commissioners, we are now on the water treatment revenue bond, Series 2025D.
I
Move to
move,
approve.
Commissioner Olson moves to approve. Commissioner Zundell seconds. We have a motion and a second to approve authorizing the issuance and the sale of bonds for water treatment revenue bond, Series 2025D. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We are now on item number 11. We call on the city administrator, Mr. Dustin Scott, for a city administrator's report. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Commissioner and President Dardis and Commissioners. Really don't have much for updates tonight, but I do want to start off with a warm thank you to the Commission for a very productive meeting we had with our Growth Area Master Plan team this afternoon. Shaping our future growth is certainly a vital endeavor, and we really appreciate all of the active participation that we're getting from not only the Commission, but of course all the other stakeholders that we've been working with. So really proud to be on track with this project, and can't thank again the Commissioner and our team enough. So, but with that, I really don't have any updates, but stand for any questions that you have for me.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Commissioners, anything for Mr. Scott? We're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All correspondence has been distributed and/or in your mailboxes. Does any commissioner have any non-agenda item they'd like to bring forward at this time? Any department head have anything you'd like to bring forward at this time? All right. Commissioner Jorgensen,
Move to adjourn.
Commissioner Anderson.
Second.
We have a